Hello anybody, and thanks for tuning into Monday Morning Handicapping. This is a Pedigree playlist video where I'm going to be taking a look at typically one of the newer stallions out there in the racing scene in hopes to get a better glimpse of what some of their runners might like to do when they hit the track, try to catch those runners early while you can still get some decent odds on them, and just overall figure out what they like to do. And so, you know, when a horse is entered by one of these stallions, you will know whether or not they will take to that particular track surface or distance. And the stallion that I'm going to be looking at today is City of Light. So just a little video rundown. First, we're going to highlight the relevance and usefulness of Pedigree. Then we're going to take a look at the City of Light's racing career, what conditions suited him the best. Then we'll go into his stud career, some facts and figures about his offspring or progeny. We'll do a brief rundown of my Google Sheets document, which will be provided in the description below. We're going to examine the ideal conditions and precocity regarding City of Light's progeny, examine tendencies and career progression for City of Light's progeny, where they started and where they've gone, highlight the dam sire of City of Light's progeny that were particularly precocious, and the dam sire is the father of the mother. So City of Light's going to produce a runner. That runner's grandfather on the mother's side would be called the dam sire. And then some final thoughts and takeaways. So why is this relevant? This is relevant because these metrics are used by owners before spending thousands and sometimes millions of dollars before buying a horse to race and or eventually breed. I trust that these owners and bloodstock agents know a lot more than myself about which horses to buy in order to earn a return on their investment. So when they buy a horse, it has success on the track and it goes out to the breeding shed relatively early in their careers, it would be wise to take notice of this. My aim for this playlist is to provide some useful information when handicapping races for 2-year-olds that have few, if any, races in their career. When this is the case, individual proclivities on the racetrack can be partially determined by their pedigree. And I hope that these videos also bring attention to the abilities of these horses as more distance and surface options are available as they progress through their careers, so that the player can capitalize on a horse that might excel when trying something new. So taking a look at City of Light's racing career, first of all, he was sired or fathered by a horse named Quality Road. His dam or mother was a horse named Paris Notion, and his dam sire was a horse named Dahir. City of Light was born in 2014 and raced from 2017 through 2019. He was purchased at auction in 2015 for $710,000. City of Light had 11 career races, 6 wins, 4 seconds, and a third, so never ran out of the top 3, and earned $5.6 million in his career, including 4 Grade 1 victories, and all of his races were on the dirt. He has Grade 1 wins at distances of 7, 8, and 9 furlongs, and remember, a furlong is an eighth of a mile, so 7/8 of a mile, 1 mile, and a mile and an eighth he has Grade 1 wins at. His sire, Quality Road, was a Grade 1, Grade 2, and Grade 3 winner routing, all on dirt. His dam or mother, Paris Notion, was a Grade 1 and Grade 2 winner routing, so going a mile or more, and a Grade 1, Grade 2, and Grade 3 winner sprinting, also all on the dirt. So starting off, it seems like this horse is most likely to be excelling on the dirt, but let's dive in a little further. City of Light's stud career, he commands a $35,000 stud fee and is currently standing at Lane's End Farm in Kentucky. City of Light's first yearlings were sold in 2021 and racing in 2022, so relatively new, but not a freshman sire. He had 120 six-figure yearling sales through his first 3 crops of offspring. His first crop average purchase price was $372,000, and City of Light sired the 2023 champion 2-year-old male, a horse by the name of Fierceness. And now I want to show everybody that Google Sheets document, which again will be provided in the description below. So if you're interested in some of these numbers, feel free to take a look in the description below. So here's my Google Sheets document. If you look down at the bottom, you'll see all the horses that I've covered so far: Vekoma, McKenzie, Voladol, Mitoli, but here's City of Light. And what I did was I took the top 50 earners for each of these horses, and I chose the top 50 earners because they're having the most race experience and success. So we're going to get a better glimpse of where his horses are going to excel most. In order by earnings, we have the horse's name over here, Fierceness at the top. Their record so far, Fierceness has 12 races, 6 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. In this box here, you can see the first career win, so some descriptions about how these runners are starting. Which race number did they get their first career win? So Fierceness won his first start at the age of 2 in the 8th month, so in August, at a distance of 6 furlongs on the dirt at the Saratoga racetrack. And then over here, I skip ahead to their most recent win. This is going to give us the progression. Do they like to stretch out as they get older? Are they going to switch surfaces? All that kind of stuff. So Fierceness got his most recent win in his 10th career start. He's had 12 so far, but his most recent win was his 10th start at the age of 4 in May, going a distance of 1 mile and a 16th. So this horse certainly stretched out as it got older on the dirt yet again at Churchill Downs. And the dam sire is a horse named Stay Thirsty. So the father of the mother of Fierceness is a horse named Stay Thirsty. And I've done that for the top 50 earners for each horse. And down at the bottom, I have some averages. They're a little bit scattered about, but if you look around, you'll be able to figure out where they are. And we're going to get into them later in this video, but I just thought that I would show everybody what I'm looking at and where I'm basing all my information off of. So taking a closer look at City of Light Progeny's first win, the idea of looking at where City of Light's progenies get their first win is to examine the precocity of their offspring, that is, to determine their mental and physical abilities at an early age. 18 of the top 50 earners, which equates to 36%, won their debut race, which means the first ever time racing. The average starts before getting their first win for all of them was 2.8 starts, and we'll compare this to other horses that I've covered before to see where this lands. If the horse got their first win as a 2-year-old, it took on average about 2 starts and got their win around late August. Again, 2-year-old races begin in late spring or early summer, so late August isn't late in the racing career when it comes to 2-year-olds. If it was an older horse, so 3 or older, it took about 3.6 starts and they would get their first win around mid-March. The average distance of City of Light's progeny's first win for all the runners was 7 furlongs. If the horse was 2 years old, that average was 6.8 furlongs. And route races for 2-year-olds begin in the fall and winter, so you would expect this to be on the shorter side of races, but the fact that it's at the longer end of a sprint is a little bit of an indicator that maybe some of his horses like to go longer. If the horse was older, the average distance for their first win was 7.1 furlongs. The percentage of first wins being sprint races was 55%, where the percentage of their first win being a route, so a mile or more, was 45%, so relatively even split there. Taking a look at the first win surface, where are they getting their first win? 65% got their first win on the dirt, 27% got them on the turf, but remember, in the US, races on turf make up between 10 to 20% of all races, so this is a relatively higher number, I would imagine, just because there's so few options of turf races, relatively speaking, to the dirt. And 8% got their first win on the synthetic, and again, what does that mean? We'll compare it to the other stallions that I've covered. So the idea of examining City of Light's progeny's latest win is to compare where they started to where they are headed in terms of success at differing distances and surfaces. Again, there are less options for younger horses, and those options expand as they get older, so examining where they are having success as they get older can indicate to us what scenarios City of Light's progeny may have success trying a new distance or surface for the first time. When horses are trying something new for the first time, this can lead to the betting public to have questions about the horse's chances of winning, and thus increase the odds of that horse. If we can key in on where these horses run well as they mature, we can capitalize on them before the betting public coalesces around these runners. So taking a look at City of Light's latest win, the average distance of their most recent win is 7.4 furlongs versus that 7.0 furlongs for their first win. Their most recent win sprinting was 49% versus 55% in the maiden win, but remember, there are more sprint options for those younger horses, so you would expect the maiden win to be around the same or a little bit higher than their most recent. Most recent win routing, 51% versus 45% for that first win. City of Light's progeny seem versatile and capable of sprinting and routing. Most recent win surface, dirt 69% versus 65% in the maiden win, so about the same, a little bit higher in their most recent, sticking to dirt. Turf 26% versus 27% in the maiden win, so again, about the same, sticking to the turf at about the same rate. Synthetic 5% versus 8% in the maiden win. This would make sense because there are less synthetic options available, so we'll have to compare these low percentage figures to the other figures represented by the other stallions that I've covered, but it seems like he's pretty consistent between dirt and turf. City of Light's progeny seem to excel on both the dirt and turf surfaces, with some apparent ability to handle the synthetic surface. Overall, City of Light's progeny seem to be very versatile in terms of their ideal distances as well as surfaces, having shown solid success in each category. Here's just a look at some of the City of Light and dam sires that won on debut. So again, if you go back to my Excel spreadsheet, look at that far right column at the dam sires. Again, the father of the mother of the horse. So the father is City of Light. This is the grandfather on the mother side of those City of Light runners that won on debut. So a horse by City of Light out of a Stay Thirsty mare won sprinting on the dirt 2 different times, 2 different horses with the same dam sire. Giant's Causeway routing on the dirt and sprinting on the dirt. Silent Name routing on the turf, Kitten's Joy as the dam sire routing on the turf, and so on and so forth. But here's just a look. If you ever see a horse that is by City of Light with one of these dam sires, that could tell us that that horse might be precocious and could win the first time out. So keep track of some of these names and just notice them when they appear on the racing form. And now I'm going to show you where in the racing form you can find the pedigree, just so you know where it is actually on the racing form. So if you're looking at your racing form, it's going to look something like this. Here's number 9 Fierceness, as we know, the top earner by City of Light. Look over here and you will see some breeding information. So you have the sire or father right here. The father of Fierceness is City of Light, and the father of City of Light is over here, Quality Road. The dam of Fierceness, or the mother of Fierceness, is a horse named Nonabella, and the father of Nonabella is a horse named Stay Thirsty. And if you go back to my dam sire list, you'll see that this horse did indeed win on debut, going a distance of a sprint race, 6 furlongs. And one more thing I want to show everybody is the comparison between some of the stallions that I've covered, which again is provided in my Google Sheets document. So if we're looking at the Google Sheets document and come down to sum, this is a comparison of all the stallions that I've covered so far. So we have the cumulative averages in this row up here. So right now we have City of Light. The average starts to get their first win, 2.8, which is about average with all the stallions that I've covered so far. Average starts for a 2-year-old, 2 starts, it's at average. Average month for the 2-year-old, 8.8 versus 9.1. So a little slightly precocious, not much, but a little bit. Average starts to get their first win if they're 3 years old or older, 2.8 versus 3.5 average. So again, a little on the early side. The average month for those 3-year-olds or older in April. The first win on dirt, 65%. If we looked at the average, it's a little bit low for first win on dirt. First win on turf, 27% for City of Light with an average of 15. So a huge discrepancy here. Perhaps City of Lights are pretty solid on the turf. They have enough dirt wins, but much higher than the average of just the horses I've covered so far, but something to take note of. First win on synthetic, 8%. The average is 6%. So about there. So capable on synthetic, but not outstanding, but not bad either. Most recent win on the dirt, 69%, well below the average of 81%. Last win on turf, 26%, again, well above the average for turf. So City of Lights, this tells me that they really gravitate towards the turf and can excel there. Last win on synthetic, 5%, 1 point above the average, so they can handle the synthetic. First win sprinting, 55%, well below the average. Last win sprinting, most recent win, 49%, again, a little below average. First win routing, 45%, well above average there, so maybe they like going a longer distance of ground and turf, so look for City of Light horses that are running long on the turf for the first time. Last win routing, 51%, 9 points higher than the average. First win difference, 7.0, which is again a little bit higher than the average, 6.6, so that tells me maybe they do like that longer distance. This is all just buttressing my idea that they want to go longer on the turf. Last win distance, 7.4, again higher than the average. Debut winners, 36%, slightly higher, so a little precocious. They can win early in their careers. And total winners, a little bit irrelevant. This was more relevant when I was doing freshman sires, but now that I'm going back a few years, of course, you're going to have a much higher percentage of total winners because they've had more years of racing to get their first wins. So a little bit irrelevant there, but for some of the younger horses, that could be more relevant. And same with multiple winners, same idea. They've been around long enough, they've had a chance to get a second win, so sort of disregard that, but it might be something worth looking at. So just some key takeaways and final thoughts about City of Light and its progeny. Due to City of Light's ability to pass on proficiencies at all distances and on all surfaces, one would be wise to look deeper into the dam side of the breeding for more favorable scenarios for each individual horse. So again, go back to some of those dam sires that I had in that list. See what types of races they're winning. Is it sprinting on the dirt, routing on the dirt, sprinting on the turf, routing on the turf? And when you see a City of Light with one of those dam sires, look for the first time those horses are trying that specific distance and surface. Maybe they'll win that race. It might be overlooked by the public. You could also do your own research on those dam sires. There's a website I like to use, pedigreequery.com, just to get a sense of where their progeny are excelling. City of Light's progeny are slightly above average on precocity, 2.8 starts to get their first win and 36% debut winners. City of Light progeny seem adept at races on turf, with 27% getting their first win on the surface, well above the 15% average. Versatility and distance, whether it's their first win or their latest win, City of Light runners are fairly evenly split between sprint and route races, an average of 6.6 and 7 furlongs between their first and most recent wins. Dam sires of Warfront and Stay Thirsty have been particularly productive when paired with the City of Light sired horse. So look for those combinations, City of Light sired and Warfront or Stay Thirsty as the dam sire. That's it for City of Light and the Pedigree playlist. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. I also appreciate any feedback you may have. Let me know what you're thinking. If you have any suggestions or recommendations on any topics you'd like me to cover. But again, all feedback is appreciated. Please like, subscribe, and or share with friends. I'm trying to explain things simply because I want to target a new audience in hopes to help grow the sport, get more people interested, understand what's going on, all the little nuances one should know about the sport, at least to some extent. I know the Pedigree playlist isn't my most popular playlist, but I think it's really important and everyone should have a basic understanding of the Pedigree side of things. And I know it's going to create a little bit of an angle for me as a horse player if I just know more about the Pedigree and what the horses like to do. So I know it's a big rabbit hole. There's a lot of information, but if you can know 10% of the Pedigree, that's just that big of an edge that you're going to have against the rest of the betting public who does not want to put in the work. But I hope this playlist is making sense to everybody out there, especially people that are new to the sport and don't know a whole lot. So if I'm explaining things well or not well, please let me know in the comments and I can adjust things accordingly. For anyone who is a newcomer and wants to know more about horse racing, I have a couple of playlists. One is how to read a racing form. I've taken friends to the track before and the racing form just looks daunting and they don't want to get into it. It looks like too much information. So I thought it'd be wise to break down the racing form into bite-sized and easily digestible pieces so that everybody can understand. I think it's 10 videos. They're a few minutes each and I just break down each section, talk about what it's telling you because the racing form is there to help the player make an informed decision. And that's what most of the players are using. So if you can look at it with a slight different perspective and really understand what everyone's looking at and who they're most likely going to bet, and you can go with a different horse that you think has a sneaky chance of winning, that's where you can make some money and have real fun day at the races. So for anyone who wants to know how to read a racing form, there's that playlist. Once you've mastered that, I have another playlist, Betting on Horse Racing, and that's where I go through all the bets that a track typically offers at a racetrack, talk about what it is, how much it's going to cost, how you can structure the ticket accordingly, and how much those tickets are going to cost based on how you structure your ticket, and ultimately things that I look for when I like a horse on a given day, how I would play different bets and structure my tickets accordingly based on who I like that day. So there's a couple of playlists for anyone who's interested in horse racing and wants to learn a little bit more and be a little independent when it comes to breaking down a race and trying to pick a winner. Coming up next, I think I'll do a quick cap-in video on the Long Acres Mile, and that's essentially where I just go over the racing form without having looked at it and just comment on what I'm looking at, who I like, and what I'm seeing in the race, what I'm thinking as I look at the racing form for this particular race, and ultimately come to a decision and a certain play. That race is coming up this weekend, so I hope I have time. That's what I'm thinking. I think it's a good exercise for people to understand at least what one person is thinking. If I'm thinking along these lines, I'm sure a lot of people are looking at it and thinking similar things. Whether you agree with me or not, that's up to you, but I'm at least explaining things as I read the racing form. So again, some of those newcomers that aren't too well informed about the racing form can kind of see what I'm looking at and what it makes me think about, whether it gives the horse a good chance of winning or a less chance of winning. So that's what I'm thinking about doing next. If anyone has any recommendations or suggestions on what they'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. But other than that, I just want to thank anybody for watching. I hope I'm educating someone out there. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend, and I'll see you next time.